Welcome to Season 4 of Spin is a four-letter word, Maroon's Mark. I'm John Maroon. As we celebrate 20 years of Maroon PR, this season is a toast to the relationships, risks, and lessons that shaped our journey. In each episode, I connect with a special guest who's left their mark on me, our agency, or our industry, offering real-world perspective for building what lasts. Grab a drink. Cheers to 20 years. Hey everybody, John Maroon with Spin is a four-letter word. This year, as you know, is Maroon's Mark, where we're interviewing 20 of people that I respect, admire, and people in our industry. And today I'm very excited because a very close and very old friend of mine, Marty Bass, Baltimore broadcasting legend, is joining us from Birmingham, Alabama today. And Marty, thank you, my friend. Welcome, and I hope you're enjoying retirement.
I'm loving retirement. I thought this was just a weekly thing, and I was just another warm body filling a slot on a Maroon podcast. I had no idea it was like 20 people.
20 people for our 20th anniversary, Marty, and you're one of those 20. And it's been a lot of fun. I think we've done about 6 of them so far, and just having you with our experiences together and your recent retirement, it's a joy. And for everybody who's listening, Marty and I first met in 1995 when I moved to Baltimore and took the job as the Orioles PR director. And our first meeting we laugh about to this day was under some contentious circumstances.
Yes, it was.
The Orioles, if you remember, Marty, were going through this series of every year trying to enhance the bird. And you had it. You were letting them have it on the air. And it was my job to call up and talk to you. And we've been friends ever since.
But the critical thing here is, and to the point of this being a PR and advertising agency basically related podcast, we had a frank and honest discussion about 9 o'clock one evening. And that led to mutual respect. And it led to an understanding on my part of some of the challenges you were facing. And it let you a little bit into my mind as to, where I was coming from. And we've taken it from there. And that same understanding of each other has played through up until basically the last couple weeks of my career at WJZ. Because you'd pitch me with an idea, and sometimes I'd say, John, I just don't really see it happening. Other times, I'd pitch you with an idea, and you might say, I don't know about that one. And every once in a while, we'd strike gold. No, but it all came from a frank and honest discussion.
It did, Marty, and thank you for saying that. I mean, we really hit it off. You were a big personality in town. I was the new kid on the block, and you're respectful to the position, but I was trying to be very respectful to you, and like we always try to be with all of our friends in the media, and I built a great friendship that lasted to this day, and that was 31 years ago. So, Marty, for everybody, just give a little recap of your career and your career path, because it's been quite a journey that really started in radio and then transitioned to television. But give everybody a little bit of background if you could.
Okay, I'll try and make an extremely long and Forrest Gump caliber story very short.
Thank you.
I started doing radio in my hometown of Louisville, Kentucky. And I ended up quitting college after 1 year to go and work professionally in radio. It took me to Lexington, Kentucky, and New Orleans, Louisiana. And at that point, I realized that radio was not the end, but a means to the end. And I went back to the college I left with a straight A average after 1 year to pursue a career in advertising and PR, to be quite honest about it. But I fell into TV and radio again at my university, Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. The Salukis had at that time an incredible broadcasting department run by students, 2 radio stations and a TV station, not run by students, but mentored by a lot of former St. Louis broadcasting executives. I really wanted to get into outdoor advertising. To this day, I'm fascinated by outdoor advertising. How do you give a message in 6 words or less? Somebody's driving down the Jones Falls Expressway. They barely have enough time to look in front of them because they're always being cut off. Now, how do you see that ad over here or over here? So I always found that absolutely fascinating. But I was on the air at WSIU TV in Carbondale. And my last broadcast, I walked out the door, and the fella, his name was Ed Brown, who ran the broadcast department, was standing there with the chief headhunter for Frank N. Magid and Associates, who had been a graduate of Southern, was back in town for someone's graduation, saw me on TV and wanted to meet me. And he said to me, "What are you doing with the rest of your life?" And I said, "Well, after my bartending gig downtown tonight, I was kind of looking for a job. I wanted to go to Chicago. I really wanted to work for Leo Burnett in Chicago." Mm-hmm. He said, "Do you have a sizzle reel?" We call them now sizzle reels. He said, "Do you have a resume tape?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Give it to me." I said, "Okay, I'll give it to you." So at that same time, the radio station I started at initially as a gopher, then a production assistant in Louisville, a legendary radio station, WAKY, called me up and said, "What are you doing for about the next 6 months?" The program director, a legend himself named Johnny Randolph, because he knew me and he knew my brother, he knew what my eventual path was going to be. He said, "What are you doing for about the next 6 months?" I said, "John, I'm just looking for a job." He said, "How would you like to be my nighttime jock? My current 7 to midnight guy is leaving. The fella I really want to hire can't come for 6 months. How'd you like to fill in that gap?" And I had always wanted to work at this radio station. Yeah. And I said, "Pal, you got me." And to this day, I consider it one of the highlights of my life, working at Wacky. All you have to do is Google WAKY, and you'll realize this was one of the legendary media market stations of its era. Yeah. So during that 6 months, I kind of put trying to get a job in advertising on the back burner. And in the meanwhile, this fella from Frank N. Magid was sending my tapes all around the country. I got an offer to go to San Antonio, Texas, and it fascinated me to be a feature reporter. I don't like hard news. I have zero interest in it. But feature reporting, and finally, here's Marty riding a killer whale. Yeah. I always thought that was the fun of journalism. Walter Cronkite would end a broadcast on a light note. In Baltimore, Jerry Turner ended the 11 o'clock news every night. And finally, and he'd tell a lighthearted story, kind of just take the edge off the newscast. Yep. So I took the job. 4 months later, the news director at WJZ who hired me, his name was Scott Goodfellow, was on a layover in San Antonio, sitting in a bar, having a beer, saw me on TV, had a secretary call me up. "Mr. Goodfellow would like a tape." I sent a tape. The next thing you know, I'm talking to John Maroon.
Wow.
Crazy.
And what year was that, Marty, when you made the move into Baltimore?
1977.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. What a run. Marty, not being from Baltimore, but I think everybody thinks you're from Baltimore because you are the face of Baltimore in so many ways. Talk a little bit about some of your favorite things about our city, what you loved so much about it. And essentially I think there was some obligation in your heart to tell stories about our city. Talk about that a little bit because Baltimore is so unique.
Well, Baltimore is absolutely unique. Baltimore is shoved between Washington, Philadelphia, and New York. And therein kind of lay an attitude, a circle the wagons attitude. And when your wagons are circled, you know all your neighbors' business. And we all know each other's business. Baltimore rejects a phony instantly. Baltimore has a quirky nature that the neighbors might talk about over some beers on a Friday night, but those same neighbors will come to your defense and aid should you need it. Baltimore is not a big city. It's a large town. And that very much attracted me. And I hope that kind of gives you the answer.
Yeah, no, it does give me the answer. And it seems like Baltimore really embraced you, and in turn you embraced it, and for decades. And having been in the industry for so long until very recently, just a few weeks now, retired, how have you seen the media in general evolve and change? And I think more specifically, Marty, I think local news. I think local news is critical for communities, and it remains critical. worry sometimes because, there's budget cuts and it's a little more challenging to run stations than ever before. But I really want to see local news continue to thrive and be an important part of our community. But you've seen it come almost full circle.
Yeah, when I started, we were doing film. And I don't say that to be funny. We were doing film. And now what we're doing is digital, your phone, streaming. And what you see on the air, we now call linear. And the business is changing, but it still is a broadcast, no matter how you want to look at it. It may be go to CBS News Baltimore and pick the story you want to see, but it's still going to be a broadcast. There's still the laws of gravity play.
Yeah.
But I think that is what is the real challenge now. And I want to go back to when I said Baltimore, it's not a big city, it's a large town. When I started in 77, you could say Baltimore, and you were basically talking about the city and maybe 10 miles outside of the Beltway. Well, now when you say Baltimore, you're talking about Cecil County, Harford County, Carroll County, for the most part, Frederick County, Howard County, half of Anne Arundel County, a lot of the Eastern Shore. So how do you keep it local when it's such a gigantic area now? And that's a big deal. The famous line is all politics is local. A city councilman will tell you what's going to get me reelected is, are my streets and alleys clean and is the trash picked up? Well, how do you remain that local, that circle the wagon area when the region, when it's now a region,
right?
Not just a small area. And I think that is the greatest challenge. And it was something that I faced every day doing the Where's Marty features. I wanted them, any of those features, to check one of two boxes or if possible, both boxes. I wanted the viewer to say, I didn't know that, or wow, I didn't know that. Now, you would pitch me with an idea, or someone would pitch me with an idea that took place, let's just say, in central Harford County. Well, what would make that viewer with a meter or a diary or however we measure ratings now in Howard County give a damn?
Right.
There had to be a common denominator. The person in Howard County or Northern Anne Arundel County watching something from Harford County or Cecil County, that they had to feel it.
It's interesting to hear how you analyze that too. Like when you get these pitches or ideas, how you analyze how it has to mean something to a broader audience.
Right, because your business is to represent your client. My business is to make money for my client, which is WJZ. You have to put the meat in the seat. And somewhere in the middle, there has to be common ground.
That's right.
I have to help you, you have to help me, but it has to work for both of us. If I put something on the air that has no interest to anybody other than the immediate neighborhood in Cecil County where the story's taking place, or even Baltimore City where the story's taking place, click, click, click. We call it now changeables. We did a lot of research. I don't think I'm giving you any proprietary information, but we know for a fact, whether it's WJZ, WBAL, WBFF, WMAR, the research is done on the audience. And there's a lot of folks now watching who moved to Baltimore, Maryland. They don't know from Marty Bass. They don't know from Jerry Turner or Al Sanders. They never heard of Bob Turk. If they're recent, they may not have known of someone who left the market a year ago. So they're changeables. If they don't feel it right here, if it doesn't make a connection right there, click.
The stories matter. It's less about the personality for some of those new folks. It's much more about the story.
It is 100% the story.
Well, that's a good segue, Marty. Let me ask you a question. So you alluded to this earlier, working with PR people, and not just us at Maroon PR. There's a lot of good PR firms right down. And what were some of the common, I guess, missteps by PR people when they're reaching out, but also some of the really positive things that you've experienced with PR people? Because we're trying to provide some knowledge to people that are tuning in that are in our industry of like, hey, How do we do better for the local media that are getting hammered with requests constantly?
Hammered. And a lot of the requests, I'd say the vast majority of the requests are just a no-go. My client owns a gym. They have a new piece of equipment. So what is gonna make you've got your gym in Carroll County? Why does someone in Northern Anne Arundel County care? They never come to your gym. So that would be a bad request. Let me give you a good example of a bad request that turned into a very good series of Where's Marty's. There's a PR fellow named Matt Scales. Got a lot of respect for Matt. Matt was doing PR work for Harford County. And they had a thing up there called the Harford County Ice Cream Trail. But when it was originally pitched to me by Matt, he said, well, we were doing ice cream at certain farms, and they've all got these Amish hex signs on their barns. BFD.
Yeah.
And I explained that to Matt, and Matt did what you and I did. We had a conversation. We came to a common ground. I said, Matt, here's what I'm looking for. And Matt started thinking, he said, well, what if we, instead of talking about the hex signs, went to Broom's Bloom. It's a farm in Harford County where they do milk and ice cream and everything. He said, what if we talked about this is one of the stops on the ice cream trail and said, here's what the ice cream trail is all about. And I said, that would work because someone in northern PG County may say, let's grab the kids and go to Harford County and stop at all the ice cream spots.
Yep.
And eventually, over time, we hit all those ice cream spots. So we turned it into
it's a really good lesson, and congrats to Matt. But in listening, understanding the dilemma and the problem and why you weren't biting, and like, okay, I hear Marty. Let me find out a way to make this more intriguing for him because I think it's a cool story. I'm just not pitching it the right way. And
right,
yeah,
exactly correct. So somebody from Baltimore City, let's say, may say, you're always looking for something to do with the kids on a weekend. Hey, it's a nice weekend. Let's go up to Harford County. You could go online and find the ice cream trail. And so anybody watching outside of Harford County would go, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So Matt gets the job done for his client, and WJZ keeps viewers during my segment.
So, Marty, tell me a little bit, after all your years at Jay-Z, I'm sure you got a million great memories and fabulous stories you did, and I know you have friendships that last forever there, but what are some of the favorite things you covered over the last 4 decades? What are those like? What are your favorite stories that you've covered? I mean, obviously we're a great sports city. We have a really unique heritage. We had a lot of, ups and downs in our city. What are some of your favorite things?
Well, right off the bat, it's going to be the papal visit.
Yeah.
I mean,
was that 95? I think it was.
I mean, what an event.
Yeah.
What a world-class event. And I was chosen along with Kelly Lynn, who's now back in the market on WJZ, to host a worldwide broadcast from Pier 6 featuring Boys to Men. It was a concert and entertainment thing the night before the Pope was coming to town. So I got to have a front row seat to this. And also I got to cover it for WJZ. Don Scott and Denise Koch anchored. I was out in far left field. There was a camera position there. So there were 3 of us inside the ballpark. There were some folks outside of the ballpark. And I'll never forget the Urban Mass Choir was singing. Oh, let me backtrack a little bit. We had visuals of the Pope's plane landing. We had helicopter shots of the motorcade coming toward Oriole Park. So everyone in there knew basically the time that this event is now coming down. And here's the Urban Mass Choir in colorful outfits and singing, and the whole place was just rocking.
Wow.
And Denise and Don threw it to me, and I'll never forget, I said, there's very little I can add to this. Let's just watch the spectacle and be in the same awe that we are all in the ballpark. Let's just bring it to your home.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything. It was kind of like when Cal.
Yeah, kind of like when Berman didn't say anything. Yeah.
And won an Emmy for saying nothing.
That's right.
Sometimes you just get out of the way.
Yeah.
The Super Bowls were amazing, particularly Super Bowl one, because back then I was working for the Ravens. I did their magazine show during the week. I did their they had a Tonight Show type live show on Saturday nights before any game, particularly the home games.
I love it.
And I also did travel with the team and did the pregame show. So I had a front row seat to that Super Bowl. Now, why is that important? I'm going to tell you why. That team means a lot to Baltimore. Remember I said we're sandwiched between Washington, Philadelphia, and New York?
Yeah.
There's an inferiority complex here. For instance, severe weather is going to rake the East Coast. Weather Channel, Fox Weather, whoever. Do you ever see Baltimore written there?
That's always Washington, D.C., Philly, New York City.
Right. Yep. So now let's get into that circle the wagons mentality again. That's why the Ravens are so important, because we may not be on Weather Channel. We may be sandwiched in between these cities, but our team can kick your team's ass.
Yeah, it's great.
And it really meant a lot to the fabric of Baltimore. Even if you weren't a super pro football fan, you understood that these guys, it was Baltimore. David Modell specifically put that B on the logo, the Maryland flag on the pants. Oh. He made it Baltimore because at that point, the ownership of the Baltimore Orioles did not want to put Baltimore on the jersey.
That's right. Yeah, that's a recent thing. Yeah.
Yeah, for fear of alienating fans from Southern PA or Northern Virginia or wherever. But what Baltimore wants to see, whether it's Baltimore City, Harford County, Carroll County, back to what I was saying, they wanted to see that Baltimore. So David Modell made it an extremely local team. We are the Baltimore Ravens. Yeah. And I had a front row seat to watching this city fly like a raven. It was cool. And then
it's been great. To me, it's been great just seeing all that the Ravens have brought to the city in terms of, just a sense of pride that you alluded to, because it's such a well-run organization, and then the championships and the playoff runs, and then just all they do in the community. It's been a joy. And now under the new ownership with the Orioles, we're hopeful for a similar renaissance.
Oh, and they've done the same thing.
Yeah.
The new ownership of the Orioles came in and I think completely reversed the culture. That Be More Friday night jersey is epic. Everybody in town wants to wear that.
You're right. They've gotten back to being Baltimore and really representing that. We just need a few more wins, Marty. That's all. But we'll get there.
There's an adage in auto racing. The idea is not to go fast. The idea is to go smooth. Because if you go smooth, speed will follow.
Love it.
I believe the Orioles will happen. So those were some great stories.
Yeah.
But filling in the rest of the question, it's going to be the average day-to-day where I personally would run into a story and go, wow, I didn't know that. So being able to say, well, there's this story or that story would be hard, because if I ever put a story on there, it's because I thought it was the best at the moment.
I would imagine to be as successful as you were for such a long period of time, curiosity had to be a big part of things. Like, you always seem to me, Marty, like when we talk, you're always asking me questions. You seem like a curious soul. And that had to be a driving force behind you be able to do this for so long and still be energized by it.
During the tributes I was getting when the retirement was happening, someone said that I had a childlike curiosity. And I don't disagree with that. Don Scott had a great line many years ago. He said, I love this business because I learn something new every day. To do TV well, or to do a podcast well, you have to know a little about a lot, not a lot about a little.
Yes, I love that. That's so true. In our industry, that's true too, believe me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you get pitched by a client. Yeah. Well, okay, you have to know about what they're pitching you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's funny, going back to the papal visit, I remember I was with the Orioles at the time, and security was super tight. They only let a few of us into the stadium to do our jobs, and I was helping with the press box, but it was tight, even for all the news gathering agencies and all that jazz. I remember my wife really wanted to get in there. And I'm like, oh, it's not as easy. And I'm not running really the show here. The Vatican is, but the Baltimore Sun needed people to run film. Yes, kids, back then it was actually film. Film. They run their camera, and you'd have to have somebody. They'd be positioned in the upper deck or throughout the stadium. Somebody have to get that film, run it down to the lower concourse where they had black rooms set up, dark rooms, so they could, develop the film. So Carol, I'm like, you want to be a film runner? And that's how I got her in the stadium. She ran film for the Baltimore Sun at the papal visit, and it was great.
We had, John, if I remember correctly, everybody that was going to be in that stadium when the Pope entered that stadium had to be in there at 8 a.m. It was
I can't remember, but I remember it being a long day and a hot day.
Yeah, they locked the stadium down. Yeah. They welded shut, they being Vatican security, the Secret Service, they welded shut every manhole cover along whatever route the papal motorcade was going to take, going to the Basilica or even going into the northern part of the city to the Cathedral of Mary Our Queen. That's how tight it was. Every mailbox, and yes, there were mailboxes everywhere, and anywhere where a bomb or some device was removed. Yeah, it was incredible.
Pretty remarkable. Marty, I have couple more questions, and we'll let you get on and get back to being retired and enjoying your life. Couple things. One is I just want to ask you, and you touched on this earlier, but again, what is a piece of advice you would give to somebody in our profession, PR people, about approaching media with story ideas and pitches and responsiveness and whatnot? Because we always tell our people a couple things. We say, one, know what the heck these folks that you're pitching cover. Don't pitch them on something that won't be of interest to them or is not part of what they cover. Two, if we promise a story, make sure you can deliver that story. Because if somebody bites, don't say, oh, well, they're not available today, right? You pitch the story along those lines. And I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but what's a piece of advice you would give to PR folks about approaching members of the media for a story?
Be honest.
Yeah.
Going back to the beginning of this conversation you and I had, just be honest. I think more than once, you and I you may have come to me, or someone who works for you, said it may not be the greatest, but I think there's reason to look into this. Just be honest. Get the dialogue moving. And the reporter has an obligation to themselves at that point to say, well, can I turn this into something beneficial to me? Someone has come to me with an idea. Because as a reporter, you're sitting there going, damn, I got to fill out this calendar here. I'm drawing a blank. The deadlines are approaching and I've got nothing. So all of a sudden, Maroon PR or XYZ PRs, I got an idea. Can I turn that into something that will help me fill that calendar? Because you can't wait to the last minute when you're doing something every day. So
I love that.
Be honest and forthright and try and get a dialogue going. That dialogue has to come from both sides. Yeah. The reporter needs to be sharp enough to say, well, let's talk.
Work together. No, it's great. I love hearing that. And, I think I always tell our folks too, I'll hear a no, or we'll hear a no from, Pete or Matt or Bria or somebody at, Jay-Z. And I'll say, it's okay. We hit them all the time. They're not going anywhere. Everything we pitch is not going to be a great story, even if we think it is sometimes, or they just don't have the bandwidth to accommodate it. So listen, be thoughtful, don't be a pain in the ass, and bring value,
Yeah, and don't take it personal.
Right, that's right.
Really, don't take it personal.
Not personal.
Just try and work together.
Marty, the last thing I want to ask you is about secret sauce. Maybe, I don't know, there's certainly some examples throughout local Baltimore media, but something about Jay-Z, there are a lot of people there that have been there a very long time. Mike Pupo just retired as well after 30 some odd years. Tanya Black's still there. Pete's there. There's so many folks there that have been there a long time. What during your 2 years there, what's been the secret sauce?
because it's as quirky as you think it is. It's an old building. They're redoing the building, but over the last year or so, people come to visit and I'd say, don't judge. Just don't pay attention to the mouse traps, because we're redoing the ceiling, and any mouse that's had a family up there for 3 decades fled for its life.
Yeah.
The place is quirky, and some people get into that zen and others don't. It's a legacy station, and some people feel that right here, others don't. It's kind of like a culling out process.
Yeah.
It's a welcoming place. You mentioned Mike Pupo and his wife Linda. They were a tandem. People would say, "Oh, Marty's retiring. That's going to be a big hit." BS. When the Pupos left, and the folks watch this probably don't know who we're talking about.
That's right.
But internally, it rocked the place. And Mike and Linda, with their going away, were like, somebody will fill our spot. Some of you out there, they were talking to the conference room, we'll fill our spot because it's Jay-Z.
Yeah.
I'll give you a great example. I'm not trying to hold you up here.
No,
we had a general manager for years ago. His name was Jonathan Klein. He ended up being president of the CBS television station group. And we had a slogan years ago. There's only one Jay-Z. And that slogan came from something we would say internally. Something would come down the pike. It might not even have been a toilet may have blown up in this old building. There's only one Jay-Z. And Jonathan said, if we're saying it, we should tell it to everybody.
Love that.
Yeah, it's a very unique, quirky place that has a legacy that anyone who buys into it wants to preserve.
Yeah, what a gift. It's great. And, and I'm so encouraged by the way the media continues to thrive and find new ways to tell stories. And you alluded to it earlier. Maybe it's not always flipping on the TV. Maybe it's through your smartphone. Maybe it's through, YouTube channels and whatnot. But with it's TV stations, local TV stations and radio stations and newspapers, local media is critical to every community around the country. And I love seeing how they continue to reinvent themselves and remain super important to our communities, because they really are.
And you're doing the same thing. How many of your clients are right there?
Yeah.
I mean, change and adapt.
Yep.
Can you hit the curveball?
Evolve or die, right, Marty?
That's right, pal.
Well, listen, Marty, congratulations again on the retirement. What an amazing run you've had. I'm honored to call you my friend, and I'm grateful for your time. Thank you for being on Spin is a 4-letter word, Maroon's Mark, one of our 20. This on our 20th year. It's been a pleasure, my friend.
The pleasure's been all mine, John. You're a champ.
Thank you, Marty.
You're welcome.
Hey, it's John Maroon again. Thank you for listening to Spin is a 4-letter word. And just a reminder, if you can, follow us on all the major social media platforms at Maroon PR. If you have an idea or suggestion, let us know what you think, and we'll see you soon.